Hello and welcome to this episode of the PD Smash podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the Washington football team's surprising victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers, the New York Giants upset over the Seattle Seahawks, and what both those wins mean to the NFC East race. Additionally, we'll be talking a little bit about James Harden's comments about not showing up to training camp. And we're also going to talk about the top 50 list that ESPN has released so far and seeing where I disagree and where I agree as we head into this 2021 NFL season. My apologies, not NFL, NBA season. So, first off, let's talk about the Washington football team. What an amazing one. I mean, what an amazing win. This wasn't like a we are going to outshoot you win, because that's not how the Washington football team operates. The Washington football team was able to outgrind the Steelers, and that's a very hard thing to do considering it is, the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what they want to do. They want to grind you out. They want to make you run the ball. They want to make you slow down the game. And the football team basically beat them at their own game. And that's an impressive feat to do for such a young team at this point, other than the quarterback, of course. And I think that since the switch of Alex Smith, this team has been really good. And I mean really good. I don't think they are title contenders. A man can hope, as I am a Washington football team fan, but I don't think they're title contenders. But this team, once they get the right quarterback under helm, because I love Alex Smith, he's one of the most inspirational men that I've ever seen. Coming back from that injury is insanity, and the way he did it too. I just don't think he has enough oomph anymore to be able to help carry that team. Maybe he does, but I don't think he does. But hopefully he does, because I would love to see that. I'd love to see the Washington football team win a championship. But once they're able to get that right quarterback long-term under center for Terry McLaurin, for that young defense, then they're going to be able to be a force to be reckoned with for years to come. And I really think if they're able to get someone like Justin Fields, like Trevor Lawrence, just someone in that top upper echelon of quarterbacks in this draft, I think they will be set, and I think they'll have a great future ahead of them. Now, am I saying they will get one of those quarterbacks? Maybe, maybe not, depending on where their draft pick falls and if they trade up and all that. But I think that is their final piece. They have two good receiving threats. They have a good to great running back. They have a decent offensive line. They have a great front seven. They have a good back seven. They just really missing that oomph at quarterback and maybe one more weapon at the wide receiver possession. And I think that team is set in terms of being able to compete for a couple years to come. But enough about the Washington football team. We'll come back to them in just a second. Let's talk about the other team in the NFC East, the New York Football Giants. They were able to win against a team that most people thought they had no chance of winning against. Just like the Washington football team won against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they did it by playing their own game and forcing the Seattle Seahawks to do the same. Now, they also did this with their backup quarterback, Colt McCoy. Now, I live in Austin, Texas, so hook 'em horns, baby. And this was a really impressive win, not because of Colt McCoy, but because the defensive side of the ball was able to outmuscle the offensive side of the ball, and it threw people off rhythm in the Seahawks. Now, do I think if they matched up again, the Seahawks would lose? No, I don't. No, I think the Seahawks would win. I think that this was not a fluke victory for the New York Football Giants, but I do think that this was a 1 out of 5, maybe 1 out of 10 chance that they win this game. Now, in terms of the future, this is a great game to build off of because you're going to get your quarterback back. Your defensive line is going to have another year to develop. And just over these next few games, they're going to have time to develop and try to get themselves into peak form if they make the playoffs. And then you have that receiving core that is up and coming of the Giants with Evan Ingram, among others. And that offensive line is getting better. It's still not great, but it's getting better. It's getting there. And that secondary isn't a laughingstock anymore, so they're trending in the right direction. Now, in terms of who will win the NFC East, the Football Giants, as I said, or the Washington Football Team, I think it's going to be really close, but you have to look at their schedules. Right now, the Washington Football Team would have to face one team that is in the playoff hunt, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. Their other 3 games are against the 49ers, the Carolina Panthers, and the Eagles. On the other hand, the New York Giants are playing the Arizona Cardinals, the Cleveland Browns, the Ravens, and then to finish out the Cowboys. If you're in New York, you're looking at this and there's a realistic chance you go 0-4 here, or you go 1-3. I don't see you going anything better than 2-2 because the Ravens are fighting for the playoff lives. The Cleveland Browns, especially at that point, because I believe the Steelers will lose to the Bills this week, the Browns are looking at this game as a must-win because they win this game and then they win out basically, and they beat the Steelers in Week 17. They have a chance at getting that number 2 seed and leapfrogging the Steelers that look firmly in control of this division all throughout. So the Cleveland Browns are looking at this game as a must-win and not just a give-me game. And then the Arizona Cardinals are also fighting for their playoff lives. They don't win out here. There's not a very high chance they get to the playoffs because they're fighting with, among other teams, they're just fighting with everybody in the NFC to try to get into that playoff hunt right there. So I could see them going 0-4 because even the Dallas Cowboys, as bad as they are, is a division rival. And if you're a division rival and you're playing someone else in your division, there is no telling what could happen. Any division game can go any way, as we see with teams like the Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Raiders had the two best games against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they have no business being even on the same tier as the Kansas City Chiefs. That's just because of divisions, and because the New York Giants aren't the elite of the elite. The Dallas Cowboys can still try to slow the game down, run with Ezekiel Elliott, run with Pollard, make Andy Dalton only have to throw a couple of key passes and win that game. That's not out of the realm of question. But if you're telling me what I think the Washington Football Team will be able to do in these last 4 games that they have, they could easily, and I do mean easily, go 3-1. They could go 2-2. And worst case scenario, they go 1-3. Now, both teams go 1-3. The New York Giants would win the division. But if the football teams win any more than one of those games in the next 3-4 weeks, they most likely will win the division because of the schedule strength that is remaining. Because especially, they're playing the Cardinals in Week 14, which is a must-win there for the Cardinals. And then Cleveland, that's probably going to be a must-win for Cleveland in Week 15 because I believe the Steelers, as I already said, are going to lose to the Bills and there'll be a game back at that point. So they're going to be like, we need to win this game. And then the Baltimore Ravens, they're playing in Week 16, and there's no way the Ravens are going to be able to secure a playoff spot by that time. So they're going to be fighting for their playoff lives at that point. And then, of course, you have the throwaway game, as I already said. But those are 3 really tough games back to back to back. And they're all on the 12 p.m. window. So there's nothing special about them. You have to create your own motivation for them. So it's going to be really tough for the New York Giants to get there. And I think that this win against the Seattle Seahawks shows that the New York Giants have a great future ahead of them. I just personally don't see that future panning out this season. And I don't think either of whoever they face in the first round of the wild cards will want to face them, because these teams are getting hot in this last part of the season. These 2 teams can slow the game down on you and create havoc on the defensive line. As we saw in both games, the defensive line controlled the line of scrimmage in both games. And whenever you have a defensive line that can do that, there's not much you can do at that point. You just have to hope you can get a few chunk plays, a few plays here and there to just be able to hold them off, to make it show they don't just dominate the game and make the game close and then beat you with a game-winning drive, because both of those teams have the capability to do that. Next, I want to talk about the James Harden news. Now, James Harden said that he did not go to training camp because he was at a gentleman's club. And now, this was a really weird tweet. The tweet he released, I believe it was a tweet, not 100% sure, but the tweet was crazy. That was really crazy. The tweet was insanity. Like, why would you put that out? Why? I don't understand why you would put such a weird tweet out at this point. You're trying to get traded. Putting tweets out like the one he put out is absolutely insanity. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it at all, because not only does that lower your trade value, which maybe that's what he's wanting to do so he can get to a team cheaper. But really, I don't understand. I really don't understand. I really just don't understand at all why you would say something like that. Like, I'm lost for words. Why? Not only would you do that and make it so your trade value goes down because it looks like you're not taking the game of basketball seriously, but you do it in such a way that it lowers your trade value and your appealability more by sending out that wild tweet. Like, that tweet was absolutely insanity. I don't understand. I really don't understand. You see, I'm scrambling because it just doesn't make any sense. Like, the only reason he would do something like this, there are two. One, he's not in love with basketball anymore, and he doesn't want to have to deal with it anymore, and he just wants to give up and go away. And just, he's not in love with basketball anymore. The other is that he's trying to 200 IQ this, so whatever team he gets traded to, whether that's the Brooklyn Nets, the 76ers, or another team, doesn't have to give up as much because it doesn't look like James Harden is committed. And I don't even know if that strategy is any good at all. Like, I don't understand at all why you would do it, even if those were your strategies, because it could backfire so easily. It could backfire so easily. It would seriously, it doesn't make much sense why you would do it like that. Now, moving on to the next one, the next topic of ours is the ESPN 2020 NFL rankings. Now, there are already a couple things that I am absolutely just utterly confused about when it comes to these rankings, and we'll get to that. But first, I want to talk about the fact that these lists are hard. I understand these lists are hard. I understand that, like, I've done my own top 10 list, as you know, it's on my blog. These lists are hard, and you're always going to get people who disagree. You're always going to get people who disagree about this list, but there are just some things, and I respect ESPN. I respect ESPN 100% for putting these lists out, but there are some things on this list that are crazy, that really are crazy. Like, there's stuff on this list that shouldn't be right. Like, you shouldn't have to put a list out like this to get enough views. It's crazy. Like, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to at all put out a list like this to get views and get clicks and all of that stuff. You just shouldn't. But without further ado, let's go through this list. First off, I don't think Marcus Smart has any business being on this list. I love Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart is one of my role models. And I mean that. I play basketball and I try to play exactly like Marcus Smart, or as much as possible. But he has no business being in the top 50. Like, he really doesn't. Especially at the expense of players like DeMar DeRozan and D'Angelo Russell. There's no reason. D'Angelo Russell right now is a better player than Marcus Smart. I think Marcus Smart is more valuable to the Celtics than the Timberwolves are in relation to D'Angelo Russell. But in terms of who's the better player right now, the answer is D'Angelo Russell without a doubt. And then that brings me to my second point is, why isn't DeMar DeRozan or D'Angelo Russell in the top 50? Like, I understand why you might not have DeMar. I understand why you wouldn't have either of them in your top 50 list if you truly thought that there was a better way and there were better people ahead of them. But it's clearly not true, because there are players like Marcus Smart on there who don't deserve to be on there. They just don't deserve to be on there at all, and it's cringeworthy, really, to see that players like D'Lo and DeMar DeRozan aren't on this list because of these weird rankings. But to move on from that, I want to talk about specific instances where I'm just very confused and where I think people should be rated lower or higher. Now, first, Russell Westbrook is rated way too low. I'm sorry, but right now he's better than Kyrie. He's better than Ja Morant. He's better than Zion. Yes, is Russell Westbrook on the decline? Of course, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about right now, and right now, Russell Westbrook is still a top 3 to 5 point guard in this league. He's just gotten a really bad reputation. And as of right now, he is still better than the majority of the 3 players I just named. And those players were way higher than him on the list. And I mean way higher. So I feel like I feel like it's incorrect to have Westbrook that low and have those players that high. And specifically, I want to talk about Zion's and Ja's rating. Because Zion hasn't even played a full season. And when he's in shape and when he's healthy, he can be a top 20 player in this league. But those are two big wins and two big ifs. Because when he's not in shape, he is not a top 50 player. And he's shown that he isn't consistently able to stay in shape. So I don't think that he should have been ranked 19. Maybe fringe top 50. I could see you putting him at 48, 47, but not 19. And then Ja Morant. I don't remember exactly where Ja Morant was rated, but that was too high. I like Ja, and I think he's going to be a good point guard in this league. But he's not better than Russell Westbrook right now. He's, again, a fringe top 50 player, and even right now, I would say DeMar DeRozan and D'Angelo Russell are better than Ja Morant and Zion. At the end of the season, probably won't think the same. But as of right now, those are my thoughts. And right now, Ja Morant is in the high 20s and Zion is in the high teens. That's not right. That's not okay. And ESPN does not get a pass for that. The next thing I want to talk about is the fact they have Devin Booker lower on the list than Ben Simmons. That's ludicrous, because the way Devin Booker played in the bubble and the way he's been playing the last couple years warrants him to be higher than Ben Simmons, because without Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons been nothing. Without Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid have been nothing. But you're telling me that Ben Simmons, a man who cannot, and I mean this, cannot shoot the basketball at all. Not only he cannot, he will not shoot the basketball at all. Period. He just will not shoot the basketball. Is better than someone who led their team to an 8-0 run to almost make the playoffs in the bubble, because they hit that play-in tournament. They're winning that play-in tournament. I don't care if it's Portland. I don't care if it's the Grizzlies. I don't care who it is. They're winning that tournament. They're winning, and they're getting there. So that's crazy to me that they have it like that. And then I personally think Jason Tatum being at 11 is too high. I like Jason Tatum, and I think he's going to be a really good player in this league, but I'd still rate him below people like CP3. I think right now Devin Booker is better than Jason Tatum. I think that there are just people in this league that are better than Jason Tatum that were on this list that need to be higher than him and replace him at number 11. Now, the final real caveat I have to this list before we end is the fact that that list had Joel Embiid in the top 20. I love Joel Embiid, and I think if he can get his stuff right, he's going to be a top 10 player in this league. But you're telling me, based off last season and the season before, he deserves to be ahead of players like, my apologies, I'm forgetting the name, Devin Booker, there we go, like Jamal Murray. Right now, I take Jamal Murray and I take Devin Booker over Joel Embiid in a heartbeat, without a question. Because you have injury concerns, you have talent concerns, you have motor concerns. There are so many things you have to concern about Joel Embiid. Is he more talented than Jamal Murray? For sure. Is he more talented than Devin Booker? Most likely. But there are so many things you can't teach that aren't talent that Joel Embiid just doesn't possess. And he doesn't. If you were rating someone off true talent, then you would have a whole different list. But we're talking about best, not most talented. And for that reason, you can't have Joel Embiid that high. He's not, in my opinion, Joel Embiid isn't better than Russell Westbrook right now. He's not better than Jaylen Brown right now. He's not better than a whole host of people below him. And I just don't see him being that high at any universe starting this year. Now, those are all the major caveats I had with the list. There were some minor ones, but nothing other than that was huge. Just a few placement points here or there, a couple things like that. But those were the main ones I saw that I took major issue with. To close out this episode of the PD Smash podcast, I want to talk about the Raiders-Jets game, because who doesn't love an old-fashioned last-second touchdown? Now I want to break this down from two angles. First, I want to break this down from the Raiders angles. And for the Raider angle, I want to say congratulations, because you could have given up. You could have been like, you know what? We're not going to win this game. Might as well just phone it in. Give up. Try for next time. But no, you didn't. You kept going. You kept persevering. And specifically, Henry Ruggs, that was an awesome route. He stuttered. He turned the defender's hips. And then he went. And he ran. And he got himself under that ball in perfect position for the catch. And great throw by Derek Carr, too. Now, on the other side, Jets. You score a touchdown with 13 seconds left. You kick the ball, right? Why aren't you running prevent? Greg Williams, really, why didn't you run prevent in that situation? There's a reason you got fired for that call, and it's because you should have run prevent in that situation. Even I know you should run prevent in that situation, and the extent of my play calling is in Madden. That's it. And I know, and I could have coached that game better than you could have. Not you could have, you did. So I don't understand why you would run a blitz in that situation. There was no need to. They didn't need a field goal. They needed a touchdown. And there was literally enough time for 2 and maybe 3 plays. You run prevent, you keep the defense, you keep the ball in front of you, and you win the game. This is just the Jets being the Jets. And I'm happy the Jets fired Greg Williams, because he deserved to get fired for that, and at least the Jets are doing something right. Now they need to fire Adam Gase, because he is an annoying person just in totality, and he's not a good coach. It's time for him to go. It's time for you guys to realize that he's not a good coach, that it's not Sam Darnold, that he's the team you have around Sam Darnold in the coaching, and to get someone new in, someone like Urban Meyer, or someone from the offensive coordinator like Bieniemy. I don't think the Bieniemy would ever go there, but you can always try. But anyway, you really just need to hit the reset. It's time to sell on Sam Darnold. I like Sam Darnold. I think he could be a really good quarterback, but you need to give him to a place where he can succeed. You need to start fresh with someone like Trevor Lawrence, and you just need to start over. Well, that's it for this episode. I want to thank you all for watching. I know I rambled a lot in this episode, but I was really excited and also really confused all at the same time in 1 week. So thank you for staying to the end. If you want to talk more about sports in general, feel free to either go to the contact page in my blog, if you're watching this from my blog, or hit the link in the description that takes you to my blog, and then go to the contact section and contact me using the phone number or the email. Now, please do not call me, text me, because I will not pick up if you call me, because I get a lot of spam calls because, 21st century technology. But I love to talk sports. This is why I've created this podcast. And I just want to connect with my listeners, because I want to connect with people who like sports like me. So that's all for this week's episode. I want to thank you all for watching. And until next time, PD Smash signing off.